Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, entitled The Son of Drona Punished. We'll be doing text 34 and 35. So 34. I guess we can chant this verse together. Shibiraya Ninu Shantam Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana Sibiraya Ninishantam Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana Sibiraya Ninishantam Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana. Please chant. Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Ambujekshana Bhagavan Ambujekshana Sibiraya Ninishantam Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana. Sibiraya Ninishantam Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana. Mothers. Sibiraya Ninishantam Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana. Mothers. Sibiraya Ninishantam Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana. Sibiraya Ninishantam Rajva Badva Ripumbalat Praharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana. Sibiraya, on the way to the military camp. Ninishantam, while bringing him, Rajva, by the ropes, Badva, bound up, Ripum, the enemy, Balat, by force, Praha, said, Arjunam, unto Arjuna, Prakupitaha, in an angry mood, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Ambuja Ikshanaha, who looks with his lotus eyes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Translation: after binding Ashwatthama, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to angry Arjuna. Purport: both Arjuna and Lord Krishna are described here in an angry...
Angry Arjuna or Arjuna in angry mood?
He said spoke to angry Arjuna. That's what my book says. Yeah. That's what this one says. Spoke to angry Arjuna. Anyway, I guess same message, right? Okay. All right. Accepted? Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Did some, but yeah, I can't read up there. I can read down here. Both Arjuna and Lord Sri Krishna are described here in an angry mood. But Arjuna's eyes were like balls of red copper. Where are there differences there too? No. Okay. Were balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses. This means that the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. The Lord is transcendence, and thus He is absolute in any stage. His anger is not like the anger of a conditioned living being within the modes of qualitative material nature. Because He is absolute, both His anger and pleasure are the same. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of His bent of mind towards the cause of His devotee, because that is His transcendental nature. Therefore, even if He is angry, the object of anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstances. And 35 you're doing also. So maybe we can read the verse together. Nam parashasi rantratum brahma bandhum imam jahi yosavana gasa saptam avadim nishibalakam. Translation: Lord Sri Krishna said, O Arjuna, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahma Bandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. Purport: the word Brahma Bandhu is significant. A person who happens to take birth in the family of a Brahmana but is not qualified to be called a Brahmana is addressed as the relative of a Brahmana and not as a Brahmana. The son of a high court judge is not virtually a high court judge, but there is no harm in addressing a high court judge's son as a relative of the honorable justice. Therefore, as by birth only one does not become a high court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmana. As a high court judgeship is a post for the qualified man, so also the post of a Brahmana is attainable by qualification only. The Shastra enjoins that even if good qualifications are seen in a person born in a family other than that of a Brahmana, the qualified man has to be accepted as a Brahmana. And similarly, If a person born in the family of a Brahmana is void of Brahminical qualification, then he must be treated as a non-Brahmana, or, in better terms, a relative of a Brahmana. Lord Sri Krishna, the supreme authority of all religious principles, the Vedas, has personally pointed out these differences, and he is about to explain the reason for this in the following slokas. Om Gyana Timrandasya Gyana Jana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Shila Prabhava Prabhu Iti Namine Shri Shri Vrindata Vivira Parapad Pankajaya Dayane Prabhupada Anubhadaya Namah Shri Gurabhave. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachayane Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Pasati Deshatarne. So, this 7th chapter of this Srimad Bhagavatam is extremely significant, very, very significant. So, for us to understand its significance, I would like to give a very brief overview as to what we have covered so far in the Bhagavatam. So, chapter 1, questions by the sages, started out with Janma Asya Yataha, that offering of obeisances unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Then immediately into the 2nd verse, Dharma Projita Kaitava, of kicking out bogus religious principles and practices. Then go into Nigama Kalpataro, that it is advised that one relish the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we jumped into the 2nd chapter of Divinity and Divine Service as to who is divinity and what is divine service, the process of devotional service. Direct worship, devotional service to the Lord, that's the process of divinity, of divine service. Then comes the 3rd chapter, as the scene is being set, where describes Lord Krishna, the source of all incarnations. And getting into the 4th, 5th, and 6th chapters, which is like, yet again, very significant in that the standard is set for understanding the Bhagavatam, where the Srila Vyasadeva wasn't satisfied with his activities, and there came his spiritual master, Narad Muni, who chastised him in a sarcastic way of not presenting the proper message for the people in general of Kali Yuga. And then they had their conversation up in the 4th chapter, the 5th chapter. Not conversation, but the instructions. Narada instructed Vyasadeva. And coming up to the 6th chapter, where they have their conversation, where Narada explains his life, and to understand why Narada was qualified to instruct Vyasadeva, to understand his qualifications. So all this happened in the form of an intertwining conversation, different intertwining conversations between different personalities. Initially, Narada instructing Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva instructing his son, Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami instructed his disciple Maharaj Parikshit on the bank of the Ganges. There at the bank of the Ganges, there are sages present. One of them was Sutta Goswami, who in turn narrated this Bhagavatam to the saints and sages of Naimisharanya. And those sages were headed by Shanaka Rishi, who was questioning. So that's how the Bhagavatam started, where Shanaka Rishi was questioning. So with all of that, with this pace, and especially the 4th, 5th, and 6th chapters, again, very significant in that they set the pace of how one should approach the understanding of the Bhagavatam. By surrender, just like in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna said, "Now I'm confused about my duty and a soul surrender unto you. Please instruct me." So the surrendering process, so the process of disciple and guru came into place, so that becomes the standard. And by that standard, then the proper understanding comes. So similarly, in the Bhagavatam, there are 3 chapters, 4, 5, and 6, that encompasses this point of the setting the standard, setting the pace of the guru-disciple relationship, Narada, the guru, and the Supreme Lord Vyasadeva as his disciple to set the standard. So then in the 7th chapter, which is where we are today, then the actual Srimad Bhagavatam begins. And the reason for that is that, as by definition, Srimad Bhagavatam is the loving relationship and pastimes of the Lord with his devotees. So this is the first chapter in the Bhagavatam where they started to discuss and describe the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. Previous, they were just discussing, like in this 3rd chapter, Krishna and his incarnations. They just talked about the different incarnations. Even when Narada spoke about his life, he spoke as to what qualifies him to be a devotee. But from the 7th chapter, the actual Bhagavatam starts where they start describing the loving pastimes and relationship with the Lord and his devotees. So that's the special significance of this chapter. And so this one here started off by one of the best set of his devotees, the Pandavas. And here, with the son of Drona being punished by Arjuna, Srila Prabhupada is talking about in these 2 verses here, the verse 34, about the difference between the anger of the Lord and that of Arjuna. And of course, if you read the fine prints of this verse, of this purport that Srila Prabhupada gave, that identifies and clearly delineates the difference between his anger, the Lord's anger, and that of Arjuna, Srila Prabhupada indirectly give us a very significant lesson also with his own life of what his anger was all about as well. He also indicated his own transcendental level. So by so saying that with Arjuna, his eyes were like, this copper ball of fire, whilst Krishna's eyes were like lotuses, with all he was in an angry mood. So there are many examples of Srila Prabhupada himself, whereby his angry mood was displayed for a particular reason. So one of that was, I forgot the name of his disciple, in his pastimes, that one time Srila Prabhupada was heavily chastising his disciple and he was really angry. So the next day the disciple felt very bad and he went to apologize to Srila Prabhupada for causing him to become angry and disturbing him. So when he went there, he was caught with complete surprise that when he mentioned like that, Srila Prabhupada had tears in his eyes and he said, actually, when I was chastising you, I was praying to Krishna, oh Krishna, I cannot help this devotee, you please help. So, Harisari Prabhu, okay. So that is Srila Prabhupada's anger. It wasn't anything of this material world. It wasn't that he was under the modes of material nature. Another time in Amsterdam, Srila Prabhupada was so angry at whatever went on. And immediately after that, one devotee, his servant, had to go in his room. And which is just like a matter of seconds, or probably a minute or 2. As soon as he went in, Srila Prabhupada's mood was completely changed, completely extremely calm. And as though nothing ever happened, he can't imagine how somebody can change so quickly. This mood is there. It also happened with Devananda Swami when he had left the movement. He had locks and big beard. So one time he came and asked that if he can see Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada said, yes, please come in, it's fine. So Brahmananda Maharaj and Satrup Maharaj was there. And he came in and he was talking a whole bunch of nonsense, as they have diagnosed that he was kind of intoxicated. And Srila Prabhupada tolerated him. Then Srila Prabhupada said that if you want to rejoin us, you're welcome, but please shave your head and wear saffron like Brahmananda Maharaj is. And then he said, no, I'm not here for that. And he started continuing saying some nonsense. And then Srila Prabhupada got so angry and he said, just get out of here. It is described that his anger was so much that Brahmananda Maharaj said that he was almost like jumping out of his skin. He was so fearful. And immediately as they got up, they offered obeisances and got up after Srila Prabhupada got so angry, they all offered obeisances. And as soon as he got up, Srila Prabhupada was completely different, completely calm. There was really no signs that he was at this point so angry. So this is one sign that that a devotee of that caliber, their anger is not disturbed or not caused by the modes of material nature. They're not affected by that. Their anger is a service to Krishna, is what is being used in Krishna service. So there are these 6 things that are affecting us. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Matsya, Sarvasya. So lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, and envy. So out of these 6 qualities, only one cannot be used in Krishna's service, and that's envy. So anger is there, so that's described. Anger can also be used in Krishna's service. Like when Arjuna was on the battlefield, he was so angry, but why was he angry? He was carrying out Krishna's instruction. So we have to understand the differences of these. And even with the Lord, many times when the Lord shows anger, it's also for the benefit of the recipient of that anger. And many times also, even when he's angry, like what is described here, Krishna was angry, but he was smiling and he has his lotus eyes and his face was so beautiful. Many of the other incarnations with Lord Ramchandra, even when he was fighting with Ravana, he was completely calm and peaceful. With all his vent towards Ravana was for Ravana's benefit. And so there are other examples. Lord Varaha, he is described that he was playing with Hiranyaksha very playfully. So his anger is displayed in a different way. With Lord Nrsingadev, that anger was a little different. Even though it's transcendental, it is so angry because his little devotee was being harassed. With these other big demons, that's a different thing. With this one, his little devotee, he was very angry that one is harassing his devotee. But it's described that only in that assembly, only Lord Shiva could have understood the purpose behind the Lord's anger and understand that this is another service that the Lord is performing for the living entities. And that's why he sent Prahlad Maharaj there. That immediately, as soon as Prahlad Maharaj went, the Lord completely changed. So these are different levels of how anger is used and displayed by the different personalities. So when it's displayed by the Lord, it has a complete transcendental effect. Similarly displayed by the devotees of the Lord, it's also very significant. It also has a level of transcendence, as we have seen so much in the life of Srila Prabhupada, a very practical example. So we also have to learn and try to train to come to that level of to use these different modes and these different qualities in Krishna's service, not use it as being affected by them. So we have to be trained in that way. So I'll just stop there on that topic because we have a whole different one to cover here on the 35th verse, where the conversation continues, where Krishna is instructing Arjuna that this person, this Ashwatthama, he can't be a Brahmana. He has to be a relative of a Brahmana, for he has killed innocent boys, these balaks. So, yet Srila Prabhupada, as his purpose of Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, he immediately gave this extensive purport, stressing this point of the qualification of a Brahmana, because that's something very significant, and significant part of Srila Prabhupada's life was spent in negating this tradition in the present day Vedic culture. When I read this, I thought, oh, Srila Prabhupada is directly speaking to us in Guyana. Because we had, in the beginning in Guyana, we had such a great problem with this issue. People rejected the devotees on this point because they're saying that they're Brahmanas because their name is Sharma or their whatever their background is. So they're holding on to this point with all their activities wasn't consistent with the Vedic culture. I remember my the first and the only job I had. I was a manager for a company, and the owner, an Indian guy, he had this priest that once a year would do this big puja for him. So this priest, big guy with a big belly, he would come, he would do the puja, and afterwards he would go off and go drinking, and then so he would have to, so my boss knew the routine, so to take him back home, he would send him with a car, and he has a dedicated driver. So when he finished all his drinking and whatever, he go to his driveway, and his driveway was kind of sloped downwards to his gate. So the guy was pull up to the corner, pull him out of the car, turn him sideways, and roll him down his driveway and leave him by the gate and go home. So that's the priest, that's the Brahmana, that what they're worshiping. This is true. I've witnessed it many times. So anyway, the point I was making that they were very upset with devotees because devotees were strongly preaching against this. And devotees came from all different backgrounds and all different races, which was non-Vedic. So they had another problem with that. So when I read this purport, I thought Srila Prabhupada was directly talking to us there. Now it's the opposite, where devotees have another problem, a very significant problem, because the entire country, they are looking up to the Hare Krishnas as having the highest standard of spiritual practice. And now we have a challenge to meet that standard, to maintain, to keep that high level of practice, and to keep that high name. Similarly, out here, to a lesser extent, devotees are very significant, and sometimes there are challenges for us to maintain that high standard. So anyway, this point here of being a Brahmana by birth is not at all supported in the Vedic culture. It is only supported through a tradition where, from probably hundreds of years ago, where the Indian culture wants to maintain a prestige and maintain a certain category or a certain status. So then a lot of philosophy were concocted that yes, you have to be born as a pandit or born as a Brahmana before you can be considered one. And they were kind of rejecting all the different practices with all is there in scripture. So when the Gaudiya Vaishnavism started to establish and spread from Lord Chaitanya and especially with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then there were a lot of fights. As we know, they wanted to kill Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and killed Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, these caste Brahmanas, because of the same thing, because of the same stress that what these prominent acharyas were stressing to reestablish Dharma, to reestablish the Vedic culture, and especially through the the Vedic system of Vaishnav Siddhanta. So it became quite a challenge, and many purports we can find if we do a Veda-based search. You'll find how many places Srila Prabhupada was pounding on this point very strongly. As soon as this point raised, one can imagine, if you read Srila Prabhupada Dharamraja, imagine like the mood that Srila Prabhupada gets in whenever a verse like this comes up, where he gets his opportunity to pound this point again of understanding. Don't be a fraud, don't be a cheat, don't just cheat the system that I am significant because I am born of a significant heritage. So here Srila Prabhupada gave this very clear and logical explanation, giving the example of the judge and his son. Or sometimes we always do with a doctor and his son. That, okay, we call the son of a doctor to perform a surgery. I know this was one of my points when we used to do Sankirtan in Guyana. Every day people would come with this point challenging us. And this is one of the examples I used to give, that, okay, if you're ill, would you call the son of a doctor to come and attend to you or give you a surgery just because his father is a doctor? They would said no. I said similarly, if he's qualified and being the son of a doctor or the son of a judge, you have a lot of opportunities to become one yourself, because all the facilities are there, the encouragement is there, and so forth. So you have a lot of opportunities, but you're not one unless you're qualified. You cannot function in that capacity. You're not allowed to serve in that capacity unless you yourself becomes qualified. So this is a difference of understanding, and what creates some level of confusion, that, okay, because one has the facility, then he is a Brahmana. No, it's not the case. You have the facility, and if you make use of the facility, then, and you get yourself qualified, you get your certification, you adopt all the necessary qualification by knowledge and practice, then yes, that is considered to be a Brahmana. Just like what we have in our movement. Srila Prabhupada was so pressured in his initial stages when he was establishing this movement, so much pressured that all these Yavanas and Malechas that he's bringing and putting them to worship the deity and giving them Brahminical initiation, he was so much criticized. And even until now, there are many cases where they still have this negativity about Westerners practicing this level of Krishna consciousness. Up to lately in South India, and they have, every day, they would have the deity doing parikrama around the temple. And it's a huge procession in South India somewhere. And they have it on this elephant. So one day, there's one Western girl, one ISKCON devotee, she was there. So everybody were throwing flowers, so she also threw some flowers. And immediately they stopped the entire procession. And for 4 hours, they did puja and purification. 4 hours, not 1, 2, or 3, 4 hours. Ranat Maharaj told this story some time ago. Completely stopped that this one low-class person has contaminated the entire procession. So that's the mentality. That's the mentality there. Even though you see many of the ones who are there involved, of course, Srila Prabhupada advised, like Nanda Kumar and of course all of us, that don't get involved, don't judge from their activities. But we ourselves, we keep ourselves pure and practice well. So that was his instruction to us, and that would make us real Brahmanas if we practice. So I would stop here, even though there are so much more points that I want to bring. So if anyone has any questions, comments, corrections, we can take them. Anything? So, who's there? Oh, Sri Devi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I really appreciate the point about the son of a Brahmana, like a son of a doctor. he may have the facility to become a Brahmana, but unless he actually acts as a Brahmana, he's not considered one, or a doctor. So that's a really nice distinction. And we were hearing the other day that the real Brahmana, or the real doctor, is identified by his guna and karma, his qualities and his actions. So it's just interesting that somebody might be born in like a family of, Brahmanas, like bona fide Brahmanas, but for whatever reason, he may not be born with like the guna and the karma to be a Brahmana, right? So that's an interesting point. Like he may be born in that family, but you just may not have the guna and the karma.
Yeah. So I think that's, at least in my opinion, that's one of the confusion that came about that, because you're born and have this facility, and then naturally your parents would train you to do some kind of little puja or something. So then after that you grow up with your own practice and tendencies of breaking principles and so forth, but you're still identified as in that category. But that doesn't mean that you're qualified to be there. So sometimes, and especially when people, like, this world is consisted of the cheaters and the cheated. So when you have a world full of people who wants to be cheated, then it's easy for a cheater to cheat. Just like in the outside world of the exploiters and the exploited. Why is it that so many propaganda to exploit? Because people wants to be exploited. This is what they're looking for. They're looking to be exploited. When you tell them to turn towards Christian, no, we don't want to hear that. But we want to be exploited by so much billboards, so much, all different distractions. If yesterday I was talking with a devotee talking about, that they just want to go to the spring every weekend. They want to go, keep saying, please don't, just try to contain, because at least even out of fear, just try to contain. But so they want to hear news and looking on Facebook and different media to find facilities that they can buy to facilitate their enjoyment there. So similarly, because with all we devotees, sometimes this inert nature is there. And we have to be very careful with that. Like some time ago, this one Mataji was telling me and my wife just many years ago that, that I want to worship Lakshmi because I want money. So I'm a devotee, but I'm bent on doing this because I have this crave for, So this tendency is there. So if you want to be cheated, then the cheaters naturally sprout up. Like my father told me this story of, I'll close with that. There was this old man and his wife. They were very poor, and the only thing he had was 2 donkeys. So one day he was, allowed in his little hut. He was telling his wife that, that only if we had 2 sons, that they could have worked and, give us money and so forth. That these 2 donkeys, they can't give us much. We're so poor. So next to his hut, these 2 robbers were passing, and they heard this man saying like this. So they decide to cheat him of his 2 donkeys, so because they can take it and sell it and make money. So they disguised themselves as Brahmanas, and they came and said, we can perform some puja, and we're going to make these two donkeys into sons, nice sons for you. So they were very happy with that. So their only position, their only little means of income, these 2 donkeys, which they used to carry loads with, they gave it to these 2 robbers. So the robbers took it away, and the next day they came back and said, so now you have 2 sons, that one is the judge and one is the magistrate. So they said, how come they become our sons? He said, I'll prove it to you that on the court day, you just go and said, oh my dear son, look how nice you have become. And you'll see that they're going to give you money. So the poor man got caught in this whole trap, went there, And he was standing by the steps, so when the magistrate was coming in, he practiced the same thing. Oh, my dear son, look how nice you have become. And so the judge, the magistrate looked around, see, this old beggar, he took out $10 and gave it to him. So then the man told his wife, he said, see, it's true, look, he gave us money. So then the judge was coming, and the judge had to go up the step. So as the judge was going up, he turned to the judge and said the same thing, and the judge keeps walking. So then he went and he grabbed onto his feet and said, oh, look how nice you have become. So the judge, just to shake him off, he kicked his foot, so just to get his hands off his feet as he was going up. So then the man got angry. He said, just see, even though you have become man, you still have your donkey attitude. You're still kicking. So this is what we're going to get when we want to be cheated. We're going to get the kicks. Hare Krishna. Any other points? So anyway, since there's nothing else, we can end here. Jai, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.